Hello, bonjour, où est le plume de ma tante, and welcome to this week's Homebrew Wednesday video. Yeah, we've been busy people, folks. Been doing lots of brewing type stuff. What's been going on then? What's been going on? Well, I've just drunk a all grain beer, my second all grain beer, and it is a Mosaic IPA. And although it's a perfectly decent beer, I can tell it's an all grain beer. It's got that sort of dry quality to it. I still prefer doing the extracts, I think. Just my opinion, and I'm probably going to get shot down for it, but I don't care. It's a personal preference, isn't it? It's a fine beer, as I said, but what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing a extract version of exactly the same IPA. So look out for that, and I will record that. We're not going to be doing anything different than we did with the all grain, basically, but there won't be as much mess, obviously, because it's all extract. I'm going to be using liquid malt extract for that. In the fridge behind me, I have the latest concoction, folks. It is a big batch, and it's of a beer called Mostly Ghostly. Now, this is really dedicated to the people that have joined in my weekly broadcasts on Lakeybloke TV. And we were having a little bit of a chat about the beers we liked and the beers we enjoyed and what kind of beers we would like to do our own versions of. And we did a bit of a live beer review on a Ghost Ship, Adnams Ghost Ship, and I think I have reviewed Adnams Ghost Ship on this channel as well, so look in the review sections for those, my thoughts on that beer. I thought I would have a little bit of a bash at it, so thank you to the people that suggested me doing that, because I was having to think about what my next beer was going to be, and the guys were very interested in seeing me knock up a my own version of the Ghost Ship beer. I'm calling it a Mostly Ghostly because we don't know the exact ingredients of the Ghost Ship clone. I have seen documents that have said, allegedly are from Adnams, saying that particular hops have gone in and they haven't matched up with other documents that are allegedly also from the head brewer. There hasn't been a sort of a match situation going on there. It's been very much a mix and match. So what I've tried to do is sort of go somewhere between the two and come up with what I think would be the best approach. So in this video, folks, from this moment on, you'll be seeing me knocking up this particular beer, especially for the people in the broadcasts. And what we'll be doing is we'll be doing a live beer review of that beer during the broadcasts before I do it here on YouTube. So that's something to look forward to, folks. If you want to see me do a beer review of this beer live, you can tune into the broadcast on a Saturday night. However, I'm going to let you see how I knocked it up, and then later on, once I've done a review of it live, I'll stick it up on YouTube and you can look at it yourself if you don't want to join in the cast. That's also fine. So yeah, I'll let you watch this, enjoy it, and I'll be back at the end to do the usual tatars. Alright, see you in a bit. So here we are then. Here's the ingredients for our Mostly Ghostly Pale Ale, or bitter even, depends on how you look at it. There's my instruction sheet. Here we've got some Crystal Malt, and we've got Rye Malt, or Rye Cara Malt, and we're going to be using 120 grams of each of those. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting them into 2 litres of cold water and putting them in the fridge overnight to steep, rather than, you know, steeping them in hot water. Here's our dry malt extract. We're going to be using 2.4 kilos of dry malt extract. I'm also going to be chucking in 200 grams of sugar, but I have just got it on the table here. And here's our hops. Now the first addition is going to be Chinook, and that's going to be 22 grams of Chinook at 60 minutes. And then we're going to be chucking in the Amarillo, and there's going to be 35 grams of Amarillo for 10 minutes. And then there's lots of Citra basically, so 45 grams of Citra, maybe 2 minutes from the end, and then another 55 grams for dry hopping after day 3 or day 4. And yeah, we'll go from there. So there it is, folks. There's our version of what's going to end up as the mostly ghostly beer. So as you can see here, what I've done is I've measured out 2 litres of cold water, and in here I'm going to put in 120 grams of the Cara Rye and 120 grams of the Crystal Malt. So here we are then. I've reset the scales here with the 2 litres of water in, so I can now easily measure out 120 grams of the Cara Rye first. So I'll just chuck that in, keep that going. I was going to chuck this all into a bag, but I've got I've got a sieve, so I'm not worried too much about getting it everywhere. A little bit more, folks. And we're just about there. We're a little bit over, that's fine, don't worry about it. We'll chuck in the Crystal Malt next. So in goes the Crystal Malt, and we want to get that to 240. There or thereabouts, all the way up. We're a little bit over, but that's fine. I'll settle for that. Right, so what we do then is we'll give these grains a little bit of a stir around in this cold water. That's it, make sure that they're all mixed up as good as they can be. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a lid on it, and I'm going to stick it in the fridge until tomorrow, and tomorrow we'll kick off the beer. Well, here we are then. It's the following morning, and I'm getting this fermenting vessel all cleaned out with some no rinse sanitizer. I'll probably give it a spray of Star San as well. But I've got the siphon in there to get the water out, of course, and also I've got the blowout tube in there somewhere. There it is. I'm going to use that instead of a airlock, because I don't really like airlocks very much. Blowout tube is the way to go, folks. Over here on the stove I've got yesterday's steeped grains, and I've put them into this sieve, as you can see, and I'm just letting it drip into the pan, and there I've got 2 litres of water warming up. Right, so this water's coming to a boil, so I know that's hot enough ready to pour over the grains. So we have to be careful with this. Oh, foggy. So basically just pour it over the grains, get as much out of the grains as you can. So here we are then at the next step. Now I've strained the grains, and I've also topped this pot up to 7 litres with cold water. So we need to put it on now and get it to the boil, which is probably going to take quite a while, probably take about 15 minutes or so. This is an induction hob, and it takes quite a while for it to come to the boil. And we put that on, and once we're up at the boil, we put in our first lot of hops. Right, as you can see, I've just measured out just over 650 grams of dry malt extract. There's your dry malt extract, and as it's nearly coming to the boil, I'm just going to chuck that in there, give it a bit of a stir, and get it going. Right, so we're at the boil then, and the first addition goes in, and this will be 22 grams of Chinook, and we need to give them 60 minutes, so that's the full boil for those. There they go. Keep an eye on that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the timer for 50 minutes, and then we'll put the next addition in 10 minutes before the end. Right, so you can either do this now or later, empty out your fermenting vessel. I'm doing it now because I've got nothing else to do. Get your Star San, just to be sure, give it a spray of Star San,
And also don't forget the lid, spray the lid with Star Sand. All I tend to do is just put the lid on it so no nasties can get in, loosely on the top like that, give it another spray when we're ready to use it, job done. Now the only other thing I will say folks is it's up to you whether you want to use a lid or not. If you do use a lid, make sure there's a gap in there for the heat to escape. And this lid has got 3 little holes in, 4 little holes in, so you know the heat can escape. But I always tend to put it on at an angle anyway, so the heat can come out. Otherwise it's just going to go everywhere, particularly if you fill it up towards the top of the pot. Alright, so that's the tip of the brew. So here we are approaching the end of the first boil. That's it, that's the end. It didn't alarm because I switched the alarm off. The second batch now is going to go in, and what I've got here is I've got about 40 grams of Amarillo. So I'm going to chuck that in. And I'm going to set the alarm for 10 minutes. And off we go. Right, so we're about 5 or 6 minutes away from the end of the boil. All we need to do now is chuck in the remainder of the malt extract. So make sure that goes in. Give it all a good stir. Make sure it all gets mixed up with everything. Right, so now we're at the end, the last 10 minutes. So we've got about 55 grams of Citra here. Sorry, 45 grams of Citra. I'm going to chuck those in, and I'm going to just leave it on the side to settle before we cool the pot down, ready to chuck into the fermenting vessel. So I'll mix that up and we'll leave it on the side to cool down. Right, so as you can see, we siphoned the beer into the fermenting vessel and then we just top it up with water. Right, so it's time to rehydrate this yeast, folks. Now, you can choose to do this or not do it. It's a choice thing. I tend to do it because usually I'm waiting for the wort to cool down anyway. So in there I've got about 250 millilitres of water. It's about a cupful. Now that's been boiled, and what I'm doing is I'm waiting for that to get down to just under 100 degrees Fahrenheit before I put the yeast in. Now all we do is just sprinkle the yeast in the top, and we let it rest for 15 minutes. We give it a stir, we let it rest for another 15 minutes, and then we pour it into our wort. So let's get on with it. So folks, as you can see, it's just under 97 degrees Fahrenheit, this water, so it's okay to put the yeast in. And here I go, sprinkling the little yeasties over the top of the water. Notice that I am not mixing it up. I'm just going to let it sit on top of the water and soak up itself. We'll cover that up and we leave it for 15 minutes, come back and give it a little bit of a stir. Alright, so it's 15 minutes later. All we need to do, folks, is give it this a little bit of a stir. And obviously I'm using the thermometer to do this because I know it's been sanitised. Give it a little bit of a stir, get all those clumps out, and then we'll leave it for another 15 minutes. Right, so here's our fermenting vessel. There's our yeast. Chuck it in. That'll do the job. And what we'll do is we'll give it a little bit of a stir with a sanitised spoon. Make sure we get some CO2 in there. Well, you know, oxygen. Love is like oxygen. And the reason I've left the hydrometer in there is because that will give me the opportunity to easily check to see whether it is fermenting or not. So at the moment it's around about 1040, which is fine. And there we have it, boys and girls. It's in the temperature controlled beer fridge. It's got the blowout tube in there. I don't know if you can see that down the side there, but it's there. Into some water and it's all done. Hey! So here we are then, folks. This is about day 4 or day 5. We've got our 4th hop edition, which is 55 grams of Citra. And in here, you're probably wondering to yourself, what the bloody hell is that, Roy? Well, we've got a spoon. sanitised spoon, and we've got the hop bag, and it's sitting in Star San. I'm just going to leave it in there for a little while. The reason for the spoon, stainless steel spoon, right? This is going to be used as a weight in the bag, so that when we chuck it into the fermenting vessel, it will keep the bag right at the bottom. That's the plan anyway. Right, so here we are then, boys and girls. We take the lid off like this to one side, and we drop in our hop bag, and hopefully the weight of the spoon will eventually drop the bag to the bottom.
Right folks, so we're back. Yes, hopefully you found some of that useful. At the end there you would have seen me using a spoon as a weight to try and get the hops to sink to the bottom of the fermenting vessel. Didn't really work out too well there. I had to throw in some more spoons because it was just floating. I thought it would be heavy enough, so I threw in some more spoons. I opened it and I threw in some more spoons, and it sunk. You learn by your mistakes, don't you? A spoon is not heavy enough to keep 55 grams of Citra at the bottom of a fermenting vessel, folks. It just floats up to the top. Lesson learned. It's important though that you use something that you know isn't going to rust or interfere with the beer in any way. So stainless steel is fine, but you know, don't just chuck in any old stuff that you can find that you know is going to be able to weigh it down. It's going to affect the brew if you do that. So before I go, a couple of things I want to mention. Wilko's here in the UK have just introduced 2 new beers, folks. Now you may struggle to find the 2 on the website. For whatever reason, they've stuck one of the brews, which is the wheat beer, into the ingredients section. So when you go on Wilko's website, you'll see wine making ingredients, beer making ingredients, and beer kits. Inside the beer kit section is a new beer, which is an ale, and it is a tequila and lime. So if you want to give that one a go, why not give it a go? The Wilko's kits are generally very good. A 2-can kit it is. And similar, so is the wheat beer, which is found in the beer ingredients section on Wilko's website. For whatever reason, they've just put it in the wrong section, folks. So those 2 new beers are worth looking out for. What I will say is that you might want to hold back for a while, because what I've heard is September, mid-September time, fairly soonish, sometime in September, I may very well be wrong here, there's going to be a Wilko sale on, so maybe worth holding back just for a couple of weeks to see if the sale kicks off, and then hopefully you'll be able to get those beers at an even cheaper price than what they're up on there for at the moment. I believe they're up for 25 quid, which is quite expensive really, I think personally, for new kits like that. You know, you should be down near 20 quid really, I think. But hopefully, you know, it's something new, folks, and it might be worth giving it a go. The other thing I wanted to say, what else was there? The broadcast will be back this weekend, folks, on Saturday, 7 PM British summertime. Thank you again to the people that join me every week and support me. I do appreciate you being there. That's all for me. I can't really think of anything else to say, folks. The next Homebrew Wednesday video will probably be me rustling up that extract version of the IPA, the Mosaic IPA. That's going to be a very small batch. It's only going to be a gallon batch. It's not going to be a big one, because I'm going to be using up some hops that were left over from my previous Mosaic IPA kit. They didn't send me the right hops, so they sent me another batch of hops free. So I've got a second lot of hops that I can use up, so I can pretty much do exactly the same thing as I did before, but this time around with extracts. And then, you know, I'll be able to confirm that for me the extract version is I don't want to say better, but you know, personally for me, I prefer extract over all grain, at least in the early stages of when a beer has been produced. And I know I can hear you screaming at the screen, what a load of old bollocks, right? But the good thing about brewing, of course, is that everybody has their own opinion. Doesn't mean they're right, doesn't mean they're wrong. You're entitled to your opinion as much as I'm entitled to mine, and everyone's got their own taste, folks. Whenever we do beer reviews, us brewers tend to say we don't really like this beer, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to like it. You may well love it. We've all got different tastes, haven't we? So that's all from me then. Rambling over for another week. I know I wasn't here next week, but didn't really have very much to say. So the brewing videos will probably slow down just a little bit, folks. I'm not going to, you know, not do any anymore, but I'll only really come on here now when I'm doing stuff, or I've got stuff to show you that I think you might be interested in, or I've got stuff to say. All right, thank you to the new subscribers. We're over 900 now. Really do appreciate it. We're approaching rapidly, well, not rapidly, crawling more like, the 1,000. So that's great. Keep thumbs up and subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.